J. Kerr, yeah, just keeping it real. Love, life, and relationships. Come on. Just keeping it real, y'all. Just keeping it real. Just keeping it real. Just keeping it real. Come on. Just keeping it real. Just keeping it real. Just keeping it real. Just keeping it real. Charles and Melendia. Whoa. Oh, are we done? What happened? You hit me? You didn't fight fair. Hey, what's up, family?
What's up, fam?
Hey, just keeping it real with Charles and
Melendia.
Yes, sir. Hey, look, we're glad you tuned in with us today. We have something that we especially want to share with you. We think you'll find not entertaining only, but educational.
Absolutely.
And we probably noticed at the beginning, you saw our video intro. Hey, but we'll talk about that as we go on. And again, but you're probably asking in the meantime, who are we? Well, we are relationship advocates. What does that mean? That means we publicly support and we recommend the strengthening of healthy relationships. What does that mean? It means your relationship and ours. And again, with who we are.
Yeah, so, and with that said, that means we've been together for 43 years.
43.
Yeah.
And we've been married how long?
Almost 36 years.
Almost 36 years
so
together.
Being an advocate and being into this relationship and marriage, our PhD is basically in our journey of marriage.
So, in other words, we made some mistakes. We've had some bumps in the road, as they say. We've gotten on that roller coaster of life. And the thing about it, we also had some successes. So that's what we do in this series. We want to empower you and share with you the successes and failures of our life, the things that we learned for.
Yep.
So stay tuned.
So what is our purpose?
Our purpose.
Our purpose is to empower all people.
All people. Right. And to empower them to
What?
actually build
Build
a stronger world. That's what we're about. Lock arms with other couples and share, and let's build a better world.
Yeah, it's about a community.
Yes.
And that's what we're about.
That's
Building
what we're about.
a community of stronger relationships. So our topic is about, do you fight fair in your relationships?
Do you fight fair in your relationships?
Yeah.
So, as we've shown the little skit in the video, they were opposition. They were opponents. We're talking about if our fight should be confrontational, then remember one thing.
Right.
We're on the same team.
Yeah, absolutely. So remember, we're not talking about physically fighting. We're talking about being confrontational with one another, just like you said.
Or if we have conflict, then we ought to apply some fair rules.
Exactly.
So we're going to share with you some of the rules that we looked at. And
We got 10 tips.
10 that we want to share. 10 tips to fair fighting.
Yeah.
Or fair conflict. Okay?
Okay. So, like we said, we have some tips. 10 tips to fighting fair in a relationship.
Okay?
And
Let's dig in.
if you're guilty, acknowledge it. Our first one, in a confrontation, there is no you or me winners.
So, in other words, what she's saying is that if we come in conflict and we have, quote, fight per se, then she can't win and I lose, or I can't win and she lose.
Right.
We either both losers or we both
fighting fairly, you both can be winners.
Yes, win-win situations you've heard of in negotiations. So when you both win, guess what? The relationship wins, and that's what we're after.
Yeah, yes. And so the second one, listen. Just listen. Just listen to your partner.
Yeah.
Hear what they're saying. Give them an opportunity to talk without interrupting.
And as you remember, Mom's old rule, she says you got 2 ears and 1 mouth. So
Yeah.
that means you should listen twice as more than you talk.
Yeah.
Simple rule. But if we apply that during our conflict or quote fighting situations, guess what?
Yeah.
It's golden.
And we've been guilty of that, believe me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So the third one,
Keep it between you and your spouse or your partner.
Yes.
Don't bring in my best friend. Hey, listen, this is what's
My
going on.
mama.
My daddy.
or my children.
Yeah.
So, keep what's private, private
Yes.
between the two of you.
And if you have to involve a third party in particular, then sometimes that's acceptable.
Yeah.
If it's a professional counselor to help you. Right through.
Exactly. So, number 4. Okay, so sometimes we can do this when it gets really hot and heavy, but it's important not to bail.
In other words, when you see confrontation coming up, you
You
decide
like,
to exit,
I'm
or
out
you,
of
I'm jetting. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm done.
I'm out of here.
Yeah,
Take
so-
responsibility of
Absolutely.
what's going on.
Right.
And with some of these tips, it's going to help you realize that when I sit and listen, then I shouldn't bail. Because
Right.
if I bail, I'm not going to be hearing what's going on.
So
So-
take ownership.
Yeah.
Yes, take ownership. Stay there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So number 5,
Number 5,
be mindful. Be mindful of your tone.
you must. Sometimes we talked about having a recorder, but both parties being aware that,
Right.
hey, let's record our conversation. Okay, I agree to record. Usually, if a person knows that they're being recorded, they may kind of keep it on the low side. But the thing about it, be mindful of your tone. And sometimes, this is what we heard recently, you can even agree to whisper.
Whisper. And you're talking. That
Yes.
it's, because it's so important how you present the issue between the two of you all. If I'm coming off at him, all it's going to do is just put up his defense mechanism. And that's not healthy. So be non-confrontational. And sometimes you have to lower your tone and maybe whisper.
And if I can kind of refer a little bit, to Bible, Proverbs 15:1 says this: a soft answer turneth away wrath, but grievous words what? Stir up anger. So
Yeah.
you have to be mindful of when you're talking.
Exactly. Yes, yes.
Number
6.
Number 6, focus on the present.
Right.
And what does that mean? If we have an issue that we're dealing with, let's focus on that issue. Don't do a laundry list or a grocery list and say, oh, by the way, last night wasn't that great either. And then next week when you did that, and the week before, no, focus on that issue. Whatever the issue is, focus and actually resolve that issue.
And this leads into number 7, which says, attack the issue, not the person. So there's an issue that you're focusing on, current issue. You have to attack that issue, not me attacking him.
Right, not me attacking her.
Yes, we
right.
have to attack. And you
Easy
know what?
to do.
We've done it.
Check it out. We're
We've
easy
done
to
it.
do. Easy
We've
to
done
fall
it. Yes.
guilty in it.
Yes.
Yes.
So, stay focused on the targeted issue.
Right,
Focus
right.
on solving the problem.
Solving the issue. Yes,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Definitely.
And then when it's getting a little rough and you can't quite connect or get it together, sometimes you have to step back for number 8. Take a time out.
Take a breather. Yeah, sometimes you need it. Hey, look, this is not happening. Right now, the way we're going at it, let's just take a time out.
Chill
Take
out.
a break. Let's take 5 minutes. Let's do whatever. Sometimes you have to do that. That's not bailing
No.
if you go back to the issue. But if you
Exactly.
say, let's take time out, I'm gone.
So
Nah.
to give you a time,
Yeah.
if you're going
Right.
to chill out, give you a minute to kind of reflect on what's going on.
Sure,
And,
sure.
and say, you know what, See, that's the thing too. You have to acknowledge when you're wrong.
Right.
So
Hey,
that's the time that you could probably do that.
and have you ever had a problem you hadn't figured out and you got so frustrated in working with it and you just couldn't resolve it, then you take a break, go back to it and say, oh man. Sometimes you can get too deep in the situation that you don't see clearly.
Yeah.
So again, please consider that time out.
Chill out.
Okay?
Number 9.
Don't blame. You know, instead of saying, well, you always, you do this, you do that or that or that, you. Take responsibility to say, well, what about I statements?
Right.
Instead of that, I feel this
Right.
when that happens.
Right.
Not you, when you do this, I feel that.
Right.
No, I feel this when this happens,
Right.
not when you do that.
Exactly.
So, yes, right. And it becomes, I guess, it becomes less threatening when you do that. Go ahead.
And it's also fair. You know, even when we're talking about fighting fair, that is a fair way to be able to resolve your issue. You gotta fight fair. Or, let me say fight. You have to deal with these confrontations fairly.
Sure.
So, our last one.
Wait a minute. Before we get into
Okay.
the lesson, and also, as we say, don't blame, a lot of times people get into the point of that it can get ugly, and they resort to name calling.
Yeah.
It resorts
Oh, yeah.
to hurting and using weapons that we know. I know her childhood, and I'm bringing up things that I know that was sensitive and hurtful to her. And again, that's what we do. The blame game takes it there. And guess what? We call each other, like say, names, oh, you this and that and that. And then too, I should be talking about, don't bring my mama in this either now. That's me and your argument. Don't be blaming, calling me names, going to my mama.
Yeah.
And then don't even make threats. Say, well, if you do this or that, I'm out. So, there again.
And most of the times, relationships, couples, and partners, they know a lot about each other.
Oh, absolutely.
So they use that as a weapon.
Right.
And that is not fair fighting.
No, not at all.
That is not a fair way to resolve a resolution or a confrontation.
Right, not at all.
So our last one is the ultimate. It is the ultimate of all of these. And that is we have to
Praying
pray
together.
You know,
Yes.
and if you haven't tried it, I mean, seriously, you need to try it. Even if it's just sitting there, if it's something you're not even used to, you
Right.
just have to stop a minute and just say, Lord, help us with this. Lord, please help us with this. Because we can't do it ourselves.
Right.
And that's what we've done. We're not experts in all of these issues here, and sometimes we can fly off and forget to pray about it. And that's probably why it gets so out of control
Sure.
when it
Right.
does.
So again, also with prayer, I said you got to be willing to forgive freely.
Yes.
So the prayer and the forgiveness go together because one of the prerequisites in the scriptures is that before you pray or offer that, you ought to forgive others. And if you've done wrong to someone, you ought to ask that forgiveness.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so think about these tips. Are these tips that you can use in your confrontation with your relationships? Absolutely.
yes.
So don't fool yourself, because we all need things like that. We can take some of this even in our working relationships. So, but in regards to companion relationships, think about these tips. Go through these tips. Listen to this again and see how it resonates within you. So, in conclusion, I hope that you will look over and listen to these tips again and know how important they are for your relationship, because they definitely are vital in our relationship. We have failed in a lot of those tips, but yet we acknowledge where we need to come up and do better. So in fighting or being confrontational, it is inevitable in any relationship that there's going to be some confrontation.
Absolutely.
So why not establish rules in fairly resolving these conflicts?
And oftentimes, it's about a person wanting to prove that they're right and showing the other person that you are wrong. But we need to approach it with the fact that we are on the same team, and when we both win, our relationship wins. And that's what we're after.
Yeah.
No solo performances, no knockouts by one party or the other. But what we
fighting
do,
unfairly.
we're on the same team. No trying to catch a person off guard. We're on the same team,
Yeah.
and we should be attacking our issues fairly.
And if you
Yes.
don't recognize that, then you need to step back and think about whether you're the problem and not point at the other person. Think about yourself. And do you want to be part of the solution?
Yes. Good.
Yeah.
And
So-
as we often say, if you feel you can't resolve an issue with your spouse, your partner, then we suggest professional help.
Yeah, feel free to email us, contact us if you are having some questions or need some resources. We'll be more than happy to provide you those resources. But we're here as a team, as a family, when it comes to resonating and being familiar with what is wrong with our relationships. And sometimes it's because we're unfairly fighting.
And in our video, as we say, no one was harmed
No.
or knocked out.
I didn't seriously knock them out.
Nah, thank you.
Mwah. No, I did knock them out.
All right. Until next time,
Yeah.
hey, be blessed, stay believing, stay prayed up.
Yep.
We love you.
Bye.
Peace out.
J. Kerr, yeah, just keeping it real. Love, life, and relationships. Come on. Just keeping it real, y'all. Just keeping it real. Just keeping it real. Just keeping it real. Come on. Just keeping it real. Just keeping it real. Just keeping it real. Just keeping it real. Charles and Melendia. Oh, we done?